up, guys? Welcome back to the third episode of Pardon the Intel. I'm one of your hosts, NacSquared, alongside my good buddy, Brad, System Stats Chalassier. How you doing, Brad?
It.
And we're joined today by a very special guest, Zach Unsurpassable Hartman. How's it going, Zach?
Going great, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you guys kind of know what me and Brad are all about. You've seen that in the first two episodes. So, Zach, let's kind of introduce yourself and where you started in the scene and where you are now.
Yeah, of course. My name is Zach Hartman. I go by the gamer tag Unsurpassable Z online. I started playing Halo back in 2009 was the first time I ever touched a Halo game, and that was Halo CE. It was a game that I had always had around the house, and my dad used to play with his friends, and it was the M-rated game in the house, and I always wanted to play the M-rated game and prove I was a big boy. So my dad actually let me play that for my 10th birthday, and I had a blast doing it, a blast killing grunts and falling off the edges of maps and just having a great time. And then after that, I was hooked on the game. It was something I always wanted to play. I played Halo 2 Classic campaign, and then into Halo 3, I played the whole campaign of that and did ODST. And then I worked my way up to Halo Reach, so now I'm like caught up with where the game was at the time.
Sure.
And I play the campaign. I get the game to play the campaign of that. And I found out there's a matchmaking, so I said, yeah, I'll play online. I'm so good at this game. I barely die to the grunts. So I'll probably be pretty good online too. So I played online. I met a bunch of really good people that I still remember to this day. And I played a lot with my friends from school. And I was one of the better ones out of my friend group. Of course, that's not saying a lot because, they're just local friends that I've been friends with for a long time. And after that, I found the MLG playlist. And I was like, I'm amazing at this game. Might as well start off doing that. Big ego from a young age, back when I was 13 even. So I started playing the MLG playlist, and that was kind of how I got into it. I was really bad. I got destroyed a lot. And then after Halo Reach was over, I moved up into Halo 4. I played that game for the full 2 years it was out. It's hard to believe. And I was one of like the last 1,000 people or so playing that game. And I did play every painstaking minute of that game. I took that time to kind of learn everything that I didn't understand about the game, like working together with a team and communicating and, all the good Halo stuff that everyone always talks about. So I took that time to like kind of catch up when a lot of people were taking a break. And then Halo 2 Anniversary came out, and I went to my first like major event, and it was in Columbus. It was the first event that Halo 2 Anniversary had. It was actually CLG won that event. And I went to that. I got to meet all these pros and all these people that I've been playing with, and actually meeting these pros face to face that I've been looking up to for such a long time, and watching their gameplay to like try to make myself a better player. It was a really fun experience. They were all amazing people. Got a lot of good conversations with them, and they were very open. So moving forward from that, I played H2A throughout its entire duration as well. Played a lot of the online tournaments. Started to get my individual skill up more and more as I continued to play. And Halo 5 came out, and in January of this year, I went to my first real 4v4 LAN, and there were only 3 teams there, and we came in second. So that was kind of unfortunate. We lost to Rob the Turtles team. They put up a great fight. We went up to Long Island for that tournament, and so it was like a 5-hour drive since I live in Pennsylvania. And then I continued to play, and the summer rolled around. I had a couple of teams in between there. I met Brad here. I met him through a guy named Spencer, if you guys know him. And we decided that it'd be a good idea to team. So Brad and I picked up Slinky, my friend Slinky, and our friend Common, RP Common, and we went to Chattanooga as a team of 4. Got a lot of practice in and had an amazing time there, just spending time with each other and competing and having a great time. I know Brad and I both got to play main stage of the free-for-all, so that was an amazing experience. And that was just last month, so that brings us up to now. So that's where I came from. It's kind of, those are my roots. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've definitely different paths. I like the campaign story. That's super cool.
Yes.
So you are still competing today in like the open circuit and whatnot in the ESL open circuit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. So yeah, me and Brad are kind of slacked in that department, but it's nice to have some competitors on the show. So we'll kind of start off this week's show by talking about the matchups that we talked about last week that happened the week of September 28th and 29th. So here you guys see on your screen the results. We have on Wednesday, E6 3-1 Allegiance. Optic Gaming lost 2-3 to Team Envious, which
Called it.
Brad, as he's alluding, called it. LOL upset Team Liquid 3-2, and then Evil Geniuses with a really tough 0-3 loss to Luminosity. This day was actually really exciting for Halo. I think the forums were kind of blowing up, Twitter was blowing up. But like Brad said, he did call the Envy beating Optic Gaming in 5 games. I can't say anyone's super surprised because we all know that Envy is a great team. But were you guys surprised, or I guess thrown off to see Optic not come back strong at all? Brad, I know you picked Envious, but did you really think that Optic wasn't going to put up that 3-0?
Yeah. No,
All right.
I definitely felt like Envy could win it. I think it'll be a bit more of a challenge on LAN. I felt like Hook at Worlds, this past, almost a year ago, he did amazing at Worlds, but when it came to the summer finals, I think it was, this past finals, he didn't kind of show up as much as he had the first time around. So I'm interested to see how he shows up at Orange County.
Yeah, I agree. So then the Luminosity 3-0ing Evil Geniuses, I think that was huge. Don't get me wrong, LOL beating Team Liquid was pretty surprising, but they have the talent. But L-Town goes off in that series against EG the week after rumors of him maybe getting replaced and dropped.
Yep.
Do you guys see this being a statement from him trying to say, like, no, I'm still one of the best players in this game, or was it just kind of a coincidence?
I think that L-Town individually is an amazing player, and I think he has kind of been slacking a little bit over the last couple of weeks. But I think that he does really well under pressure. He's one of those people that knows what he has to do, and when that situation rolls around, rumors of him being dropped, I feel like he can really pick it up, and he can go off. I think he proved it this week, and he, from my experience, is really hard to play against. He makes amazing plays, and he gets great shots all the time. So I think that he's one of the pros that can really show what he's got. He's kind of like Ninja, where like when Ninja's playing at his top, he's playing incredibly well, and I think L-Town's kind of the same way.
Yeah,
I agree. I think he's kind of like almost like a momentum-based player. If he has his back up against the wall, you can expect him to, kind of shove back. He's like Ninja, but also at the same time, kind of more like an OBJ type Ninja. Like he's very momentum-based, and he's like very flanky, and like he'll make those objective plays and will do what needs to get done.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to see Evil Geniuses go down 0-3 after the last few weeks they've had. They've been really hot, but Luminosity came out swinging. And then we'll go on to Thursday, day 2 of that week. Team Liquid beats Luminosity 3-2, which I think was huge after them coming off the loss for 3-2 to LOL. Yeah. So it was really good to see them get back on the horse. Optic Gaming 3-0's Allegiance. This one I was a little surprised at, honestly. I had said in my prediction that I could see Allegiance putting up a fight against Optic because the players like Contra and Devin, they've always done well against the great teams.
Consistent.
Yeah, so I was a little surprised to not see them take a win. The games weren't necessarily close. It seemed like Optic really had control most of the games, but I think there might be some team changes coming out of Allegiance soon. The next matchup was Enigma 6 versus Envious, which Envious took 3-0, and I think most of us kind of saw that coming. Although Enigma 6 has the talent, Envious is just a powerhouse, and after beating Optic, I don't think anyone's really getting in the way of that train right now. And then the really surprising one, I think everyone was really caught off guard, is LOL 3-0ing Evil Geniuses. This threw the community for a spin, basically. Everyone was really excited to see some of these veterans, APG and Hines and Ace, get that win. And not just a win, but a solidifying win against one of the top teams. Brad, what do you think about this whole situation with LOL? Are they a team that's actually going to compete, or is this a fluke week?
The team looks totally different. They've always looked really good on Truth, and that's actually something I want to talk about really quick. They didn't get to play both Truth maps, but like from the vetoes, they ended up having like both Truth game types available, and we've seen week after week like how good LOL is on Truth despite like these losses they've been taking. So I think that's kind of weird that EG didn't veto those Truth game types. But they didn't even need to go to the second Truth game type, which I think was Truth Slayer. I think they played Truth Flag. But I think this team looks totally different. I think they could, if they do pick up Renegade JW, they could definitely do some damage.
Yeah, so I guess that's the rumors that they're going to officially pick up Renegade JW. Zach, have you played against Renegade at all in this Halo?
I actually haven't played with him too much in this Halo, but he was one of the people I played Halo 4 with for a really long time. And it's great to be able to see, top amateur players that are given this opportunity by people like Ace and the rest of the LOL squad. and really like go off. You know, it's kind of how Rami got his name out there. He played for CLG, and they won both of those games. I mean, at the time, it's kind of like you're on CLG, you're probably going to win. But, you know, Renegade was in a position where LOL wasn't really expected to win that series. And for a 3-0, that really makes a statement of the team skill as a whole, and also just Renegade being able to kick it with the like big boys. So that's the second time I said big boys. It's a little weird. But, yeah, so I think it's a really good opportunity for Renegade. From what I can remember, I mean, like I said, I haven't talked to him in a while. He's a nice guy and amazing player. So it's really great to see him in that opportunity, to get that opportunity and to be in that position.
I agree. I think, like Brad said, I think they look totally different. This team was picking up Renegade changed the entire team. I don't know what it was, confidence-wise or just the aggression, but I don't see any reason why they won't pick him up. So I'm almost positive they'll pick him up, and I think maybe this will change the kind of team they play as and possibly pick up some more wins along the season. I'm not necessarily sure if I put them as a top competitor this season, but I think they'll definitely be amongst the middle of the pack and maybe avoid that relegation. So
yeah, something I just want to say about that LOL team is they've had a hard time, I feel like, getting a solid team down, especially Ace in particular. You know, he was on Optic, and even since back when Flamestar was still playing, they were always kind of just looking for a team that really meshed. Excuse me, that really meshed well. And when they had picked up Nated when they were still on Optic, I felt like when they were placing top 4, that was a really good time. That unfortunately fell through for them, but you know, sometimes it's just about picking up that player. Not to say that anyone that was on that team that when they weren't doing well isn't a good player. They're all amazing players, but sometimes when you just get the people together, they just do so much damage. They just play each other well, and they read each other so well, and they really just end up meshing. And that's something that can't really be taught a lot of the time. And that's, I feel like, something at a high level. It's something that's very difficult to find. And I think it can only get better as they continue to play as a team and continue to mesh with each other even more.
Yep, I agree. It'll be interesting to see how they cope as they stay together, hopefully with a solid squad and build throughout the season. So we'll jump over now that we've looked at this last week's matchups. We'll talk about some of the roster transfers that have happened over this past week. So Randa's squad has been picked up and sponsored by the Money Matches organization, which
Go Rangers.
A lot of people have been probably have heard about them. So they also picked up Straight Sick for Baby J. Brad, what do you think about this drop for Straight Sick instead of Baby J?
I actually don't know if he got dropped or what the intel on that is. I don't know if you know, Zach, but it's kind of like if you think about it, like two top FFA players just like trading one out for the other. Like we've always seen, like Baby J, I think, won the past FFA at the HCS finals, and then Straight Sick's always been known to be insanely good at FFA. So honestly, I think like stylistically, the two players, like maybe Straight Sick definitely has more experience, but stylistically, I don't see how the two players could be like insanely night and day. But at the same time, I'm not, the one teaming with them. There maybe just wasn't the same dynamic that they once had with Baby J, and maybe they wanted to try something different. I don't know, but we'll see.
Just something to bring up about Baby J. I think individually he's an insanely talented player. At Chattanooga, he came in second place in the free-for-all. Brad brought up that he's won a lot of free-for-all titles. Just that alone proves how good of an individual player he is. And he works well with a lot of different teams, which is something that can't be taught. And I think it's something that really is going to play to his advantage here in the future. I could very easily see him on a pro team up here in the future. He's been progressively working his way up and playing with better and better players. And I think people are really starting to recognize how good he is at the game. And I would not be surprised at all to see him as a pro here in the upcoming future.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I got to play with him a little bit in H2A when I was going to events, and he's clearly got the talent. And that doesn't really go anywhere. And as he gets the experience, which he's getting now, he's only going to get better, like you're saying. So I agree. I wouldn't be surprised as well. So we also have, because Team LOL are not going to go to Orange County, we have a new team of Ace, Renegade JW, Trippy, and now Baby J are through a squad together for Orange County. So we'll see them there. The Chat Shade squad has been picked up by the organization MW, Most Wanted eSports. And then another surprising thing, well, I guess I shouldn't say surprising anymore, Shock the World, a team based out of Mexico, got third at this week's Legendary Cup, which, I mean, at first people were really surprised. Yeah, they shocked the world. Last week people were really surprised, but they did it again. Brad, what do you think about this team? Are they the real deal, and are they going to come in and actually compete for that top 2 spots?
I don't think they are, but I hope we get to see them at Orange County. I know lately, Tapping Buttons, one of the players in Shock the World, who really has shown insane talent, has been running with some of the top AMs and notable pro players such as Gabriel and Goofy. So I hope he can continue to kind of shine and show how good of a player he could be. Because I remember playing him in matchmaking, and kid's insane.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
people...
we actually went out to them on when we played Sunday. They were the first team that we played in the winners bracket since we got a bye first round. Our team didn't show up, so we ended up playing them winners bracket round 2, and they. I mean, there is the connection aspect of it. I don't want to bring that up too much, but it's definitely noticeable. But those players, like, they still make good plays. Tapping Buttons, I think, is the best one on that team, and he definitely deserves to run with some good people. Not to say anything bad about the other players on their team. They're really good, and they were playing really well together. They were playing very aggressive, and they worked well at it. Everyone on their team played aggressive, and they did get away with a lot of stuff that is hard to get away with unless everyone on the team is working together. So shout out to them for that. They did play really well.
Yeah, Tapping Buttons definitely seems like a player to keep an eye out on. A lot of people have been talking about him on the Twitterverse and on the forum. So we'll see if he doesn't join some other top American AMs and throw a squad together. Unfortunately, if he would ditch his Mexican team, that'd be a little bit of a bummer to see that international play go away. But it is what it is.
The losers finals game that they played against Threes Up, like they ended up getting third, losing to them. Yeah. But I think Shock the World gave Threes Up more of a fight than the most wanted esports team did. Used to be Chat Shade Squad. Yeah. T2 pointed out that Shock the World was very more in your face, like very, very aggressive, and like at the same time worked together with that aggressiveness. Whereas like Chat Shade Squad played a little bit slower, and like because of that, Threes Up were able to get into their setups and do what they wanted to do, where Shock the World didn't give them any of that breathing room. So I think I don't know, this team works really well together.
Yeah, I agree. I think honestly the most impressive thing about this squad is the fact that they literally just came out of almost nowhere, and all of a sudden they walk in and they just play so well. People have their opinions in the community about how you have to basically grind against the best teams to even get anywhere near the top. Well, Shock the World totally debunks that theory. They said, I see how these teams are playing, we're good at Halo, and we're going to come in and win. And honestly, that's incredible, and it's really cool to see because it shows that anyone can come in and shake up the scene given the right amount of skill and teamwork. So it's really cool to see that. Whether or not it continues, I guess we'll find out in the upcoming weeks, but nonetheless, still fun part of the year. So we'll jump over to the Orange County land that's coming up this weekend. We have some notable teams that are not going to be making it. Luminosity Gaming, Evil Geniuses, and LOL are not going. Like I said, Aaron, Elam, Ace is going with the other squad. All the other Pro League teams are going, according to Lethal.
Wait, except Allegiance.
Oh, okay.
New intel. Pardon the intel, Nick.
Okay.
Allegiance, the owner, Instinct, who I think you're a friend of, he posted on the forums on Team Beyond saying how they haven't released official announcements, but Shooter has been traded to E6. And because of this, Allegiance is not going to be attending OC.
Gotcha. Okay, so do we know the trade exactly? Is he traded for another player, or are his rights just given up to E6?
I think they just traded him to E6. I don't think they're like trading him for Stellar per se. Right. There's been a lot of talk. Like one of the mods in EG's Discord channel said that Stellar has recently joined it, and they have scrimmed with Stellar, actually against E6 with Shooter. So not sure where Stellar's going to end up, but at the moment it's looking towards EG.
Yeah, I think it's good that Stellar gets off this E6 squad. I think that's best for everyone, honestly. Who do you guys think, Zach or Brad, either of you, who do you think could be a good fit for this Allegiance squad? Do they have someone in mind that they could be looking for, or is it just going to be a toss-up?
I'll go first. Yeah, sure. I just think with people like Contra and Predev on that team, I don't want to say they're new pros because by no means really are they, but they're kind of a different kind of pro in a way where, Contra was incredibly good at 1v1s. That's all he did back in Halo 3 for a lot of the time, is what he used to say. And he played really well in Halo 2 Anniversary, and Predev played really well in H2A as well. I think if they could find another player that kind of fits those guidelines, I don't really know exactly which player per se that would be. But if they can just find another player that fits their play style, I feel like that could still be a really dangerous squad.
I think if we didn't have the you have to be 16 to compete, we would 100% see Shotzi on that squad. The Shotzi Falcated duo would be an insane addition to that Allegiance squad. And I think, I mean, I don't know any of this for sure, but I remember seeing some of the Allegiance members, along with Falcated, like tweeting, saying like, you know, release or free Shotzi as if he was like put in jail, you know, and and I like that would be an insane squad because Shotzi has shown like how good of a player he is, and we haven't even been able to see him in the open circuit because he's too young. But like all these beyond 2v2s, he's always like top 2 at least.
Yeah, a little bit of a strange rule, I have to say. I don't agree with it, and I don't think most people do. But they might have their legal reasons behind it for whatever it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully they have their reasons. But I agree, that would be an unbelievably talented team. Unfortunately, we won't get to see it. So we'll see what Allegiance ends up doing. I think they wanted to mix up, obviously. They needed something new. So Shooter leaving for E6 to give them the opportunity to change it up. So, like you said, Stellar might be on Evil Geniuses now in place of Victory X. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. Evil Geniuses kind of seemed like a team that surprisingly was at the top, which a lot of people weren't actually expecting. But then this last week, obviously, they had another, a rough week. So I guess that could meant something about it. But dropping Victory X, obviously you only can drop Victory X or Ninja, really. But I don't know that this is the right move, but at the same time, who am I to say call Roy or Lunchbox out on their decisions? They obviously know what they're doing, so who knows? This could be a good team. Obviously, Stellar is extremely talented, but I'm not sure this is the right move. Brad, what do you think about that?
At first, I thought it would have been better to drop Ninja for Stellar. That was my initial reaction, but then as I kind of thought about it more, I'm actually just kind of stealing this idea from someone on the forums, but someone on the forums brought up how it'd be better for Ninja to stay because Ninja is what's finally pushing Roybox forward into like hold forward. And to be more aggressive, like you need to be in Halo 5. They're the ones that are like pushing, or Ninja is the one that's pushing them towards like this more aggressive playstyle that you need to play in Halo 5. So once I thought about that, I thought about like, you think about the shots of like Roy, Ninja, and Stellar just going forward, like that just sounds scary. If they can somehow like clean up all the OBJ and like teamwork in between, that'd be an insanely powerful squad.
And Lunchbox doing damage the whole time,
Yeah, of course, like flanking and doing what needs to be done, the dirty work, and he by no means has a bad shot either.
I do hate to see Victory leave that team because on paper, at least, I feel like that EG squad was just such a powerful, the twins and the duo on the same team. There's just so much potential there, and I really do wish it would have gone on for a little bit longer, but like you said, I'm in no position to be telling these pros what to do, so.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be cool to see Stellar in this team, but like you guys are saying, honestly, I don't know where in the world Victory X is going to end up because I really don't see him ending up on Allegiance. So
that's what I was about to say. Maybe he goes to Allegiance.
Yeah, I don't think that's not really a mix of players that people have usually associated each other with, but I guess anything could happen.
Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But according to some reports and rumors on Twitter, something like 20 AM teams are going to be going to Orange County, which is extremely low and quite unfortunate. Brad, why do you think this is happening?
West Coast. There's a large amount of the player base on the East Coast and central part of the United States, and I think 343 Industries and I don't know if eSports Arena had anything to do with having it in OC, but I think they thought it would be less money for them to have it towards their headquarters on the West Coast. But I think with the drop-off of teams, you're saying like you're losing even more money than you would have if you went towards the East Coast.
Something else I think, when you're planning an event like that, I'd imagine that a lot of it goes into a lot of planning, and then you make reservations with the venue, which is normally a hotel. And then after all that, you finally get all that finalized, then you announce that. And there were two companies that were kind of doing that at the same time. You see eSports Arena and UGC both doing that. And they had all of this finalized already, So by the time that one of the, I'm not sure which event was announced first, but by the time that one of those events was announced, there's no going back on your event. So now you're in a situation where you have Chattanooga, and then just over a month later, Orange County, and you got Vegas and St. Louis, all like packed into a really small period of time. And if you're forcing certain people that aren't going to be playing at a very high level, like they're going to be playing at a high level, obviously, anyone that's going to those tournaments is good at the game. But if you're forcing them to choose one of those events, it makes sense that you're going to see a dip in attendance. Of course, 20 teams is pretty unfortunate for an event of any size. But at the same time, it is understandable for a Halo-sized event when Chattanooga had 39 teams there, I believe, something like that. A lot of people, maybe if they're not in a financial situation where they can go to an event this soon, and also maybe people are saving their money for another event. So it's also understandable in that sense.
And something I want to point out is it's not even 20 teams that are like going; it's 20 passes sold. So it doesn't even mean 20 teams are going, and that's again a rumor. But Chattanooga has 70 passes sold, and had 39 teams, so that's like just a little over half. So I don't know if we're going by those same numbers. You're looking at 12 to 14 teams.
Yeah, that's definitely a bit of a bummer. Now, we could talk about, are Vegas and St. Louis going to have these same results? Personally, being a St. Louis guy, I'm a little bit biased, but UGC St. Louis and H2A was the biggest open event that H2A had. I think we had over 90 teams, and it was incredible. It was a great event. It went really well. It was in the dead of winter. There was snow on the ground, and still had 90-plus teams showing up, which is really cool. So, does that speak for the location of the event? Maybe. And honestly, I'm a little worried about Vegas because Vegas is not an easy place to fly into or cheap to stay at, at any point in the year.
Definitely not cheap to stay at.
Exactly. So I don't know if that's going to be any better, honestly. I understand the choice of the location. I mean, it's Vegas. I get that. But maybe if done it later in the year towards the finals or something, because I'm just not really sure how it's going to work out. But, PGL's got a little bit more money on their hands, so, I feel like if they needed to really bail out and say it's not going to happen, then they will. But hopefully that doesn't happen, and hopefully we do see a decent show at that.
I feel like the structure of the whole thing this time around is a lot poorer than it was just even Halo 2 Anniversary. I remember in Halo 2 Anniversary they said, we're having Columbus, we're going to have a couple of online cups where you can play Saturday, maybe qualify for Sunday and play against the other pros. We wouldn't have that now because there's Pro League, but, we have Saturday Open, Sunday Legendary, and then we have this, and they had all these events laid out. I think it was Columbus, and then whatever Denial won, and then whatever EG won. I forget what the actual locations were, but it was very concise, and it was like, all right, this is what we're going to be doing. This is the prize pool for it, and I feel like that's something that we haven't seen a lot in Halo 5. This game came out, and there was Daytona, and that was right at release, and since then we haven't actually really seen. I feel like, in my personal opinion, we haven't seen too much backing from Halo, which is a real shame because they're present at the events, but I know when I went to Columbus just as a spectator, I've talked to multiple people that worked at 343 who would come out just to see the event and just to enjoy Halo. And that's something I feel like we're missing now, where it's just these independent people, these independent organizations are setting up these tournaments, and it's just kind of like, hey, here's an open tournament. And it's kind of unfortunate in that sense.
I think 343 and the people in charge of the esports kind of saw all the hype around Chattanooga, and then thought, okay, how much do we have left in our budget? Okay, let's fit as many events or we can in the remaining 2016 budget. And so they chose West Coast because it's cheapest for them, and they kind of didn't completely think it through all the way. I think they rushed it.
Yep. For whatever reason, historically, Halo has always done better on the East Coast. People know this, and in the Midwest. So I don't know what it is. Obviously, there's a lot of teams out west, but I think it's just that little bit of extra travel from East Coast teams that it's just not worth it. Whereas in the Midwest, your Columbus, your Indianapolis, West Coast and East Coast teams alike have a decent travel, but nothing crazy or ridiculous. So we'll see what the results end up showing. Hopefully it's a decent showing this weekend and we can get some good Halo on the TV screen, but we'll just have to wait and see. So after talking about Orange County, we'll now roll into the amateur league drama that has been going on, and one of the good reasons we've got Zach on the show is because there was quite some interesting drama that happened recently after this last weekend's Legendary Cup. There was some drama because, Zach, your guys' team and Juicy Fruit's team, which you guys now see on your screen, Juicy Fruit's tweets, there was a disqualification happening because one of the teams lagged out. So, Zach, if you want to go ahead and give us a rundown of your side of the story and what you saw happen.
I'll just let you know the situation I found myself in on Friday. Went to Chattanooga with RP Common, like I had said, and they asked if I would. I played with them Friday night. They said, "Hey, we need one for tomorrow. You want to play with us?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." They were a team of 3 for St. Louis. I figured they had some good chemistry together, and it was probably the best team I was going to get on one day before the tournament. So I happily accepted. We won our first round without any problems. We won our second round. It was 3-1. And then we moved on to this round against Juicy Fruit's team. I think 3 of us were unaware that this was even playing for top 8. I think we were just kind of playing, and we thought it was like we were playing for top 16. But we won the first game. We actually played incredibly well that Saturday. We played very well for a team that had never really played together. I was very happy with that. So we won the first game by a lot. We won the second game by a lot, and we had so much momentum going into the third game. We start off the third game. It's a Coliseum capture the flag game. I did a sneaky push into silver, and I got some good shots. I got a double kill on people going for rockets. I ended up grabbing that BR. I flew window and got a triple, and so now the score, like the stats line up, I have 5. My teammates each had 1, and they had 1 kill total. So we were doing incredibly well. We're about to pull this first flag, and we see someone leaves the game. It says player left, and we were supposed to be host because we were the higher seed. So we hosted the first 2 games, and per Vortex's request, they had asked us if we passed them host. So we passed it over to Vortex, whose name is Frank. We passed it to Frank, and so we said, "Hey, should we end it?" And then someone on our team said, "No, they have to invite him back." So we're like, "All right, fine, we'll just pull this while we have the advantage." Obviously it's unfortunate for them, but it's happened to everyone. So we start to try to pull this, and the game ends, forgetting that we had given Vortex leader. So we're like, "Oh, that's right, we gave that to them." And someone on the team was vocal about, "Oh, that's not what you're supposed to do. That's not what you're supposed to do." Someone messaged him, tell him that's a forfeit for the map before they try to say something stupid about it. So I was like, "All right, whatever. I'm not doing anything." I messaged Vortex. I said, "You're supposed to invite the guy back. That's a forfeit." I just repeated what my team was saying. And then after he said, "What? That's not fair." We invited him to the party to talk to him about it. We had Chris and I, RP Common and I, really, we had both said, we really don't care if we replay that or not. Hondrolo didn't really say anything about it. AAAs was kind of pushing for a DQ, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of that was based off of, he was so hype and he was so like, "Come on, let's go," and we have all this momentum. And we invited Vortex to the party, and we invited Dr. Chaos to the party as well.
Dr. Mario.
Yeah, Dr. Mario. And, he was kind of angry when he came into the party. Nothing on him. He was kind of fired up, like, "Dude, there go our chances if their guys are going to, potentially DQ us." I had just expressed what I felt. Since I was a sub, I wasn't trying to, overstep my boundaries by any means. I had expressed what I felt was where my team was coming from and the feelings that we felt during that time period. So I brought up
what did you feel?
I had said, I made a push through silver, like I mentioned before, and that's kind of unorthodox. That doesn't, if people know it's going to happen, it doesn't work as well. So it was a really catch you off guard kind of strategy. It did work out really well. They sent 2 rockets and they both died, and I was able to push into window. We had 3 dead consistently just on a spawn cycle. And if we were to replay that game, we wouldn't have that same momentum. So now, because one of your guys lagged out, and because you're unfamiliar with the rules and ended the game prematurely instead of inviting him back, now that plays at a disadvantage to my team. And I was just saying, I brought up the idea that, that's not really fair to these guys, because one of you guys lag out and you guys end the game. That's not fair to put us at a disadvantage. That's what I had voiced my opinion on. Like I said, Dr. Chaos was a little fired up. Hondrolo, at that point, he had left the party. I think he went to go try to talk to someone else, but I'm not sure. And then Ace left shortly after because Dr. Chaos was kind of coming on aggressively, don't DQ us, that's not fair to us. I think Ace wasn't really wanting to hear that, so he left. Chris, RP Common, and I talked to Vortex and Dr. Chaos about it. And this is something that I don't understand why Ace didn't really bring this up and voice this on Twitter. He said he didn't really care what people were thinking of him, so I think this is kind of why. But he had asked the PGL admin what to do. He submitted a ticket. He said, "What do we do if this happens?" And he had brought up that we were up 2-0 in the series, and he had said what happened, how they had ended the game prematurely. And that's all he said. He just said, what should we do in this situation? Because we weren't sure if we could just replay that or not. And the PGL admin just advanced us. He didn't reply to.
So the
Christian.
PGL admin just made it a DQ.
The PGL admin, he said, this is what happened, and they ended it, so they lose. And the PGL admin, I think it was Reed, I'm not sure. I think he was the one in charge of that. He just advanced us through the bracket. And by that point, Ace and Hondro had both left the party because they were trying to get ready for the next game. And by that point, PGL is kind of bad with that, understanding with ticket submissions. So it was a really unfortunate situation. Looking back on it, I definitely could have done better to push for a replay. We were up 2-0 in the series. It was a dick thing to do. I do apologize to that team for it. Like I had said, it was just kind of, we were so momentum, let's go, let's keep pushing this, and then just had that shutdown was really a bummer for our team. So I think that's where a lot of it came from. Could we have played that a lot better? Yeah, absolutely. And we do take responsibility for that, and I'm sorry to those guys for that unfortunate situation.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head right there. It's just an unfortunate situation all around. I don't think necessarily that it's anyone's fault. I don't think you guys did the wrong thing, and I totally understand where Juicy Fruit and them are coming from to be frustrated. It's really a he said, she said situation, and being extremely objective in this scenario, because I have really no piece in this, there's really nothing you can do besides go strictly based on the rules. And like you said, the rules say if this happens, they're supposed to invite them back. Now, is it their fault that they don't know the rules exactly? Probably not, because how many of us know the rules sentence by sentence?
I do.
Shut up, you're a nerd. I mean, they change.
Every tournament, I read all the rules, because this shit always will happen if you don't.
That you read the terms and conditions before you accept them.
Right.
I do not.
And that's something everyone should do, but let's be honest, most people don't. Brad's just a nerd, but I
don't want to get DQ'd, man. I've done so many Halo 3 GBs and just lost because of stupid shit. I read the rules every fucking time.
Yeah, Christian, I understand where Christian Ace is coming from. As you guys see on the screen, his team had the power weapons, they had map control, and they see the other team drop out, or one of the players, and so they suspect a bit of fishiness going on there, trying to restart the game. I don't necessarily see that perspective because, the team's down 2-0. If they're going to lose, they're going to lose. They're not going to try this last-ditch effort. If they're losing, they're losing, and if it's not going to turn anything around. It's one thing if it was 2-2 and it was a game 5, and you guys got map control, and then someone quits out, and it's okay, now that's kind of weird. This is a really important game, and you're going to quit out. So I get that, but at the same time, I also see where he's coming from as, we had a chance to finish this game out. We had control, and you lagged out, and then you didn't follow the rules correctly. So unfortunately, this is what's going to happen. But this is...
I actually see it the opposite way, personally.
Okay.
If I'm down 2-0 and the other team, somebody quits out, in my mind, they're well, last-ditch effort, we don't win here, doesn't matter anyway, so what the fuck's the harm? But, 2-2, game 5, someone lags out, if I'm the one winning, I want to replay that. I'm not going to feel satisfied. If somebody just lagged out, not to mention if you're in a close series 2-2, you're not going to just quit out because you have a bad start. You want to keep going, you want to keep playing, you're going to feel confident that your team can win. But if you're already down 2-0 and like Zach said, it kind of lost handedly, I could see somebody doing that on purpose.
Yeah, it was actually Freezy was the one that lagged out, and I know everyone on that team somewhat personally, probably Juicy Fruit the least, but Vortex and I teamed back at Halo 2 Anniversary, and we've been good friends since then. I know that those guys would never do something like that.
Yeah. I'm not saying.
And that entire weekend, the servers were very
I see
bad.
it opposite from.
Yeah. I understand that. I don't think personally there was any fishiness going on. I think that someone from my team said the word sketchy, and that kind of made them get on the defensive, rightfully, where they're no, we would not do that, and they kind of came at Hondro a little bit, and I think that's what prompted him to leave the party. Nobody's fault there. It's just really unfortunate. And actually, the very next day, we played from 1 until we didn't get done with the losers bracket round 2 until 5. It took 4 hours for our losers bracket to get to round 2, and the reason for that was right before we had played, or not we had played, but the round that was going to be the winner we were playing was Rob the Turtles team and Crossfade's team, and that was just one day after we had DQ'd Vortex's team with Juicy Fruit, and that took forever to settle. You guys probably weren't aware of that, but I was in the PGL that chat that they have for the entire tournament. Anyone could talk in it, and it was just Reed, Crossfade, and Rob the Turtle, just all three of them trying to come to a consensus about this, where one of Crossfade's players had lagged out, I think it was, and then everyone on Crossfade's team quit because they didn't have leader. So their solution to like ending the game was to just every one of them quit out. And Rob's team was like, no, that's a win for us. But Crossfade was like, no, we were up 2-0. We want to play it from there. And Rob's team wanted a full replay. So it was kind of the same situation, but it was in Crossfade's words, we were in the process of like making this reverse sweep happen. Rob's team went up 2-0 in the series, and then that was game 4. And Crossfade's team had 2 caps in 3 minutes. So they were looking really good to win that game and to have someone lag out. They didn't want to be punished for that. And Rob's team wanted a full replay. So that's where a lot of that came from. And they argued about that for so long. Eventually, Reed just said, screw it, I'm advancing Crossfade's team. And then they were like, wait, what's going on? No, what? They have to. What? Even if you do give them this win, you have to like advance. They get 1 win, and then we have to play game 5. And he's like, oh, you're right. So he just advances Rob's team, and then
that makes more sense.
And he just gave Rob's team the entire win for that game, which is more justifiable. But at the same time, when you're coming from Crossfade's point of view, you're like, no, that's not fair. They didn't actually win that game 4. We were going to win that game 4. We want to play game 4. And Reed, by that point, just said, no, this is what it is. And he had said to me, I was in the chat, he said, Unsurpassable, start the game, you're playing. And that was a lot of drama right there. That took forever to settle. That was the abbreviated version. That took like an hour and a half to actually settle.
All right, so was Rob's team up 2-1 or was Crossfade's?
Yeah, so Rob's team goes up 2-0, and then Crossfade's team won game 3. And then they were playing game 4 was Fathom capture the flag. Crossfade's team gets 2 caps in the first either 2 or 3 minutes. It was incredibly quick. And they're well on their way to pulling this 3rd flag, absolutely, to my understanding, destroying those guys on Rob's team. And then one of Crossfade's players lags out. I'm not sure which one it was. It might have been UK's. And so then Crossfade's, the rest of his team, since Rob's team has leader, they can't end the game, so they all quit out. That was their understanding, that it was supposed to be a replay, not an invite from where the situation.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's the same thing that happened with your series. Like, you're not supposed to end the game when someone lags out on OBJ. You're supposed to invite them back and keep playing 3v4.
Yeah, it was almost the exact same situation. It was I think our team was a lot further ahead than the other team was.
Yeah.
And Crossfade's team poses this threat of potentially pulling off this reverse sweep. So that was something that might have played into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes down to the admin, like, if they're not going to, replay it, if you're going by the rules, Rob's teams, they win because those are the rules. But I think the thing that's happening with the open circuit is everyone thinks it's Pro League. Everyone thinks, when someone lags out, you end the game and you start from that score, but that's just not the case, and people hopefully learn that now and know that if someone lags out in OBJ, you invite them back, and then we all know if you lag out in Slayer, usually people are good about it and, will restart or, pick up from the score. But if you lag out in a Slayer, you can claim that win just because.
Yeah, it does say in the rules, these are what the rules are. If the team that this plays to the advantage of chooses to take this, they can. But at the same time, if Crossfade's team was like, sure, we'll do a full replay, that's perfectly within the rules, as long as it's leaning towards the other team. But, Rob's team was really pushing for a full replay, and Crossfade was pushing for a play from restart, or play from point of
from 2 up.
And I think at the point Crossfade was at, I think Rob's team probably could have just DQ'd them for quitting out. So if I was Crossfade, I probably would have just taken a full replay.
Yeah, just take the L in the argument and you don't want to take the W in the game.
Yeah, you don't want to throw that lead 2-0 that you had just out the window. But after that went on for an hour and a half, people just complaining. I think Reed did just get tired of it and just advanced Rob's team.
Sounds like it.
So.
Yeah, it's a bummer, all this stuff. I mean, these situations are just really unfortunate that you can't just start from certain points. I mean, things like score you can pick up from, but things like power weapons and map control, spawn points, you can't set that back up. There's just nothing.
Don't show up.
They need an in-game mechanic where you pause it and the entire game is paused. I don't know if anyone watching or you guys have ever played League of Legends or, almost any MOBA or a lot of even just other PC games. You pause the game and the entire game across the board is paused. Everyone's at the pause screen and you wait for that player to rejoin and then you play from right there. I don't know why we don't have this mechanic. I don't know if it's just because we're console or why we're so behind on these sort of mechanics in game, but that's a crucial thing for esports to have if we're gonna keep thriving.
Yeah, I think the only issue with that is who dictates the pause, because can the pause be used?
Well, anyone in the game can do it. if there's any sort of technical difficulty, press escape
And like custom
and hit pause.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I guess my first thought is like, oh, I'd get really annoyed. What if I'm playing a team and I'm up 2-0 and they just keep pausing the third game, and I guess you just have to have that respect.
You would only do it if like somebody lags out. You can't just pause mid game because you're like, wait, guys, we need to talk about this for a sec.
It's not a timeout button.
So it
there's
only
no
works
timeout
if someone's lagged out.
Right. Well, it's not that it only works if someone times out.
Think about the situation we're in. We're up with a lot of control, and I have rockets in their window. If we were to replay that, all of our control, all of our map control is gone. They're no longer feeling that pressure. We have our momentum would be lost, right. And we don't have rockets. That's a huge thing. That should be 4 guaranteed kills, or at least 4 guaranteed. You can damage 4 people. So it is such a huge thing that if you were to just do a full replay, it doesn't show up. And something like that pause button, where it's available in custom games, would be huge.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. What I was trying to allude to is my fear of like a troll team, pressing pause consistently, just to screw with the other team.
And if you do that like without reason, then you get DQ'd.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I can understand that. I think that's something that would just come throughout time. It would iron itself out. Whether or not I'm thinking about that. If that's a hardware limitation, we're talking about console versus PCs. I don't think
there's like any sort of limitation. I think it's just that innately like console's always been like slightly behind PC where it comes to like in-game mechanics. Well, but it's definitely like a doable thing.
Right. Something like that. I don't know that, I don't think 343 could necessarily update that into the game. That's a pretty big mechanic, I would say. I mean, that's server side. That's a lot of things that I'm not sure they can update at this point. I could be wrong, but
it's just something to keep in mind for moving forward. Right. Even just moving forward and improving upon what you have.
Like Halo 6,
every Halo game gets better than the last.
Sure, I totally agree. Yeah, so
because I know actual like console games right now, like this small game called Battleborn, which is like Overwatch. I don't know if Overwatch has a mechanic, but Battleborn, which is like Overwatch, on console, like it has that exact thing. You press pause if one of your players has left, and they can just join back up, and then you unpause. Like. It's a doable thing for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something they need to look into for sure. And honestly, it's got to be because it's embarrassing for 343 when people are watching the Pro League and this happens, and you just have the commentators spitting crap for minutes because they have to fill up time. And they do it well. T-Squared's really good at what he does.
That's what they get paid to do.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's got to be a better solution to it because it's really unfortunate how it happens. If you could pause,
just like for competitive integrity, like if we want to have the highest competitive environment possible for all players, not even just pro players, just all players, like even these AM teams trying to make it up there, like we need stuff like this.
I agree. Well, in all, I think Zach, I think your guys' team, I mean, you obviously didn't do anything outside of the rules. You did what the rules say you're allowed to do. I think it's up to your guys' discretion. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing either of your two choices. I understand Juicy Fruit's point of view for being frustrated. I get that as well. And I think, everyone kind of understands each other's perspectives. And at the end of the day, you just got to say, shit happens sometimes, but there's really nothing you can do about it. And, you got to kind of let it go and you move on in the tournament. So we'll kind of move off of that branch now and we'll go into the power rankings for coming up to this Orange County tournament. But we'll really do the whole Pro League because we've talked about how, some of the teams aren't going to be at Orange County, but we'll just do the updated power rankings and what we think going into the season, or the 4th week of the season. So based on Team Beyond's, you guys see on your screen now, you see the different commentators and their opinions, and then the aggregate score for the power rankings. So I will go ahead and list those off. Coming in at first, we have Team Envious with 32 votes, Optic Gaming in second with 28 votes, followed by Liquid, E6, Luminosity Gaming, Evil Geniuses dropping into 6th place, LOL at 7th, and Allegiance rounding off at 8th. So, Brad, what do you think about this lineup, and would you make any changes to it?
Something I noticed that was weird to me is that I think Frosty, I don't have it up on my screen. What did he put EG at? Pretty low, right?
He's got EG at 7th, yes.
Yeah, so he had EG at 1st last week, and he already put him way down to 7th, so I don't know like what his reasoning behind that is, because I also didn't understand why I had EG at 1st last week, but seems a little wish-washy on EG, so I just wanted to throw that out there. I think overall I pretty much almost completely agree with with the Team Beyond rankings. But for my own, I'd have NV1, OG2. I think I would put Luminosity 3, and then Liquid 4. E6 5. LOL 6. EG 7. And Allegiance 8.
Okay. Zach, what do you think about these?
I think just looking at a very top level up here in the next couple of months, like top 3, I think my top 3 are going to be Optic, Envy, and I was going to put EG up there. I feel like they were doing really well with that, but it's going to be interesting seeing how they do in the future. I think Envy is going to provide a really good challenge for Optic. Since old CLG new Optic took over really when they added Lethal, they only lost one event at X Games. And since then, it's just really been history. And a lot of people back then, and I think it stands the same way, that it would always take a big roster change of a group of 4 incredibly talented people to be able to take those people off their throne. And I think with the incredible slaying powerhouse that is Envy, when I look at that roster, I am a little scared. I'm not going to lie. You have 4 incredibly talented people, and if you can get them to play well together, which they've definitely proved they do, taking that series off of Optic and Pro League, I think that they might actually be the team that finally takes down this Lethal and Friends squad. So as far as top 2, those would have to be mine. It's incredibly close. As of right now, I'd say Optic would be better if you're playing a LAN tournament, but Envy is incredibly close. Other than that, I pretty much agree with Brad. I didn't see really anything out of the ordinary there. I hope that EG can bounce back and do well. I think that the Twins and Ninja are incredibly talented players, and if they can find someone that meshes well, they'll do well. And I think that Allegiance might actually, like you said, if they find a player like Shotzi, when you were talking about Shotzi being picked up, it clicked in my mind. That is the perfect fit for them. If they can find someone like that, or if they find a way to get Shotzi onto that team, I feel like they can do a lot of damage, and they could even potentially place top 4. So it'll be interesting to see.
I think I have them at 8 just because it's a total question mark who they're going to pick up. And they keep losing these crucial close games and kind of just didn't look too well last week. So as it stands now, I don't really see them doing too well.
As of this week, I agree. I think that they're 7th or 8th probably, as well as maybe even EG, just because of the situation they find themselves in with not really 100% knowing what's going on with their team. And as 4 players put together, no, they're not a dedicated or established team right now. Established is the better word for that. Just in the next couple of weeks, though, you could definitely see those teams start to climb the rankings.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of agree that Envy and Optic are kind of in a league of their own right now. Those 2 teams are just above and beyond the rest. But it's kind of cool because at this point, those next 6 teams are all, I think, head-to-head. I mean, I could see Allegiance coming out next week and beating Liquid. I mean, which is really cool for the competition and for the viewers. This is kind of where I saw Evil Geniuses at the beginning of the season. If you would ask me before the season started, I would have put them in this range. But then they came out firing. So now the question becomes, was this past week the fluke, or were the first 2 weeks the fluke where they were beating the top teams? That team is the big toss-up. I really have no idea. I wish I had an opinion, but I just don't. I don't know. I could see them being a top 3 team, and I could see them being a bottom 3 team. They've shown that they have the potential to do both. So we kind of just going to have to wait and see it. Right now, I see them at, 5th, probably, maybe 4th, but Luminosity also came out and did really well. E6 jumping into 4th. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. There's still a lot of but wrestling going on with the leaves there. I think once that settles, maybe, put them up there, but I might put Luminosity above them for now. I'm not sure. LOL, I don't see them going above 7th, honestly. I don't know what you guys think about them. I'm really excited for them to get momentum and start this new team, but you look at those teams they're competing against, and they're just too good.
Yeah, I think you were saying how EG, you're not sure if this week is a fluke or the last 2 weeks are a fluke. I don't think it's really either. I think the first 2 weeks, people overrated them. If you look at the first week, they beat Allegiance 3-2. That series really could have went either way, and right now we're looking at Allegiance as a bottom team. And then after that, what really hyped them up was the win over Optic. Right. But when we, heard about, that win is that Optic hadn't been practicing for 2 weeks, and we talked about on our first episode, you can't not practice for 2 weeks and expect to do well in Pro League. So then you go on to week 2 and they lose to Envy 3-1. pretty much expected, that they should lose there. And then they play E6 and barely win 3-2. And then, that's with, all the stellar conflict going on. So, like, that series also could have gone either way. So I think they were just overrated going into this week, and I don't think they were as good as everyone thought they were. So it's not necessarily that it was a fluke any of the weeks. It was just that people kind of got too hyped over them.
Right. Quick pause. Remy! Hold on, I'm putting on timeout. Hold on.
This man's crazy. I don't know how you do it, bro.
Yeah, he's never had this much problem with his dog before.
Who had the idea for this?
My dog is a fucking... Okay.
What'd you say?
I just said, who had the idea to do this show? It was irrelevant to...
It was Nick.
Alright, sorry about that. He's in timeout. You just finished up talking about... What? Fuck, shit.
I just finished talking about Pro League and EG specifically.
Yeah.
And if, those last 2 weeks were a fluke, or if this week was a fluke.
Yeah.
Said neither.
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, you know what I'm saying. I don't know if it's what it is with them, but I think they could go either way. I see them being at the top or at the bottom, but I guess we'll find out in the next few weeks as well. One team I kind of want to point out, and I want to see your guys' opinion on, is Luminosity. They've been kind of the middle of the pack. Do you guys see them being a team to make it to Worlds and break it into the top 4? Or are they just going to kind of float around the 5, 6, 7, 8 range?
Do I think they can be in the top 4? Yes. Will they? Who the fuck knows? Because one, they need to make sure like L-Town is their guy, and 2, L-Town needs to make sure he is their guy and performs like he is. I think if L-Town is their X factor essentially. If he can constantly put up good numbers, we'll keep seeing these 3-0s like we did this week against EG. And then if they can kind of go clutch, and this week they lost 3-2 to TL on the second day, but that was a really close series, and TL was really fighting to prove that they aren't the bottom of the barrel after losing to LOL the day before. So I think TL was coming out really hot. So for LG to barely lose the series 3-2, that really boasts how good of a team they can be.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. What do you think, Zach? What do you think about Luminosity?
I don't think that they're a 5, 6, 7, 8 team, but I definitely think that they can find themselves in the 4th, 5th, 6th with ease and with enough effort put into it and making the right plays and really working hard. I feel like they could even find themselves in 3rd or 4th. It's a team of people that, once again, like Brad had said, if they trust L-Town and L-Town gives them a reason to trust them, to trust him rather, I feel like that team could definitely, they're all over the board. It's hard to tell, but they are a serious squad of potential.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that roster and it ekes talent. I mean, there's just a lot of good talent on that team. It's all about whether or not it comes together, and that kind of is the same for every team, which is really cool this season. All these great players, it's just who meshes well together and who works well together. So we'll kind of wrap that up. Is any surprises, do you guys think? Is there any team that where they're at now isn't where they will be, or in a week or two from now, or after this Orange County, or any teams that might drop significantly or go up significantly? Brad?
You mean of the teams going to Orange County, or just all the teams?
I guess of all the teams, so I guess we'd have to wait for the next week, but do you think Orange County could, for some of these teams, say one of these teams that are going upsets Optic, do you see that meaning a lot? Because it is on LAN, and although not all the pro teams are going, could that change the power rankings? I mean, honestly, I think even though some teams aren't going, it could say something. Do you think that you see anything like that coming?
I think 100%, like, Orange County will show us who are the top teams in the Pro League. LAN's where it matters. If you can't produce the same teamwork you can on LAN, it really just doesn't mean as much. But right now we're seeing Allegiance in last, and I think depending on who they pick up, they could definitely move up. But honestly, looking at all these teams, they all look like they could be in contention for, like, I don't know, 5th through 8th. I think how Ace and Renegade JW do with Trippy and Baby J, I think that'll really see where Renegade goes, if he does end up joining that team, or if he maybe explores other options. but I think it would be a lot more impactful if all the teams were going. But of course, they can't because roster changes. So I think Optics could end up winning OC, and I think Envy will come in second, and I think it'll be a close series, but I think Optic will show they're the better team.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I think it'll be cool. We'll hopefully see some Orange County footage in the next week's episode of Vision. A lot of people I know check that out. It's a really good
awesome
production by Hitch. I agree. I think Allegiance, because those 3 teams above them won't be there, but I could easily see Allegiance beating E6 or Liquid in a series or outplacing them just because of the talent they have and based on who they pick up. But I guess, we had talked about, I guess Allegiance is not going, correct?
Correct. Last minute they are not because of the move from Shooter over to E6.
So yeah, I guess I didn't even really think about that. So I misspoke there. They won't be able to go, but if they were going, that would be my opinion. So I guess we just have the top 4 teams going. I think, that Optic Gaming, whether or not they take this crown for Orange County will be interesting, but definitely should be a good tournament. Hopefully the top AM teams show up. So I guess we'll go ahead and take our picks. Brad, you said Optic Gaming. I'm going to go with Envious. I think that they're going to try and come out and prove. I think they know what this LAN means to the community and means for this power rankings. They want to prove to be the best team. Zach, who do you got winning?
To win the whole thing, I'm going to have to go with Envy as well. I think that they're going to feed off the momentum that they have from just beating Optic. Even though it's online, we finally took down Optic Gaming after all this time. They've lost online tournaments before and online Pro League matches, of course.
Sure.
But Envy just coming out of this with the confidence that they need to beat them, I could definitely see them taking the whole tournament. And just in the same way, after Orange County, if a team plays particularly well that weekend and they place higher than maybe they were expected to, moving forward from that, now this team has some newfound confidence, and that could play into the following Pro League matches to come, where these teams that otherwise might just be playing at the level they normally do, they play incredibly well at Orange County, and then they take that, and then they continue. Teams fear them a little bit more, and then they have a lot more confidence in themselves. So I think the event will actually change the way that a lot of these teams perform if they do better or worse in the same sense than they would normally.
Yeah, I could totally agree with that. So usually at this part of the show, after coming out of the power rankings, we'd kind of talk about next week's matchups. But because of the Orange County event, they are pushing next week's matchups back another week. So we'll be waiting till October 19th and October 20th for the week 4 gameplay. So we'll kind of hold off those matchups and what we think about those until next week's episode 4. Sorry about that, Zach. You don't get to throw your input in on those, but
that's absolutely fine.
We'll see what coming out of Orange County, what the results are, and see if they influence our decisions on who we think is going to do well in that 4th week of the ESL Pro League. But for now, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. Zach, we really appreciate you coming on the show and talking about your perspective on all of the amateur drama and whatnot. I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come in this season. And Brad, as always, it was a pleasure. Any last words, Zach?
Just thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope to be back in the future, potentially, depending on how long you guys do this for. So,
absolutely, man. It was a good time. Brad, any last words?
I hope the hurricane doesn't make it so my power goes out because I want to watch OC, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, prayers to Brad, and a quick prayer for a lost COD player, Fizzy, recently around the eSports community, or Fizzerp, excuse me. Really an unfortunate situation, and prayers with his family and all the friends and people of the COD community. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up episode 3 of Pardon the Intel. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next week.